Guys, we're right at that 30 marker. I'm so excited. I'm like struggling to spell my own language. What's up, everybody? Hello, hello. I'm Danielle Bonfig, and you are excellently joining me for a conversation about Gen Alpha today, I do believe. I just need 1 second to be able to click you through.
You should have it now.
I do indeed. Thank you, sir. All right. Hello. As you notice, we're having a beautiful cultural exchange of hellos in different languages. I love it. I love it. But if you're not familiar with other languages, that's a-okay. Today, we're going to delve into some how do we talk about personal finance with Gen Alpha? If you would like, you can absolutely, you've done it a dozen times now at this point, but if you'd like to share where you're coming from, or if you'd like to just say hello in another language, you absolutely can. Heck yeah. But let's get you started for today. So, with Intuit for Education, I'm going to talk to you about our beloved humans, Gen Alpha, today. I have three overarching elements that I want us to kind of touch on today. Oh my gosh, that's my headshot still. I'm still Danielle. Hi, guys, from Northern Arizona, kind of close to the Grand Canyon, if you're not familiar. And it's so lovely to get to work with you guys. If you joined me for my last chaotic session, I love that. Let's settle into those three things I wanted to talk to you about. I always forget I have to introduce myself. So, we are going to talk about these beautiful babes, Gen Alphas, usually 2010 and up. We'll talk about it momentarily. But we're going to try and paint a truer picture of who Gen Alpha actually is. If you go onto social medias right now, if you have a quick like Google search of Gen Alpha, a lot of things pop up, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to propose perhaps a reframe of how we can take those less than palatable traits and those downsides, if you will, and make them into teachable strengths, right? And then, of course, I hope that you can leave this. Yes, the brain rot generation. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But I hope that you leave today with the experience of talking with fellow educators about your experience with these young humans and maybe identifying some strategies that work well with them. Not just in the broad sense of having our classrooms and them in our classrooms, but then also targeting some personal finance good stuff. Does that sound pretty good? I hope so, because if not, you can pop to another track. No hard feelings at all. Perfect, perfect. All right, let's rock and roll with it, my fellow humans. All right. So, before we talk about our beautiful Gen Alphas, we do need to acknowledge that there be stereotypes with all generations. So, if you will share into the chat a stereotype about your own generation, that means you got to identify. So, I'm a millennial, and we were told that we were too. I'm actually going to make mine. Apparently, avocado toast is the only hindrance to my budgeting scheme. Exactly, Charles. Exactly. As a millennial, I can say that. Ooh, latchkey kids. Heck yeah. But if you will, hold, make sure you say what you are because we are a vast group of different educators. I know I got some of those Gen Xers in there. I know there's probably a couple boomers out there as well. I love you all. Let's rock and roll. Ah, grunge, Gen X, heck yeah, beautiful. Love it, love it. Sped in our ways, baby boomers. All right, all right. Just a hot 30 seconds, if you will, of popping in a stereotype you know about your own generation. Beautiful, beautiful guys. Oh, okay. Gen Y can't throw away Apple products boxes. Oh, very good. Nice. All right, all right. Millennials are spoiled. Okay, okay. Deal, deal. Okay. So not to like start some generational wars here of like, wait, no, I'm millennial and I say this, or boomer thinks this. No. I wanted us to take a moment to see that, across each generation, we get a wrap placed upon us. And so, whoop, sorry guys, trying to click for emphasis. Oh, because it's a slide of this nature. Guys, I love when technology works. So, if you needed some framework to help you see who and what we are, I wanted to put some ages tied to those generational stereotypes that we might be saying, in case you need some help with that. All right, all right. Popping into the chat to have a look, seeing what's there. Couch surfing, Millennial. No ages for some of these. I like it. I like it. All right, all right. So, with this breakdown of ages, kind of seeing where those age groups can go, I'd like us to dabble into how everyone has a typecast set to them at some point in time. And Gen Alpha is no different. I mean, in the chat, we already saw some brain rot generation comments, which is what's circling right now. I want us to look at these differences because the differences are absolutely real. But what's really important here and what ties to personal finance is that personal element. Each generation, in raising and being part of the community at large, is going to impact one another. And we're not going to ignore what Gen Alpha offers up. We're going to do our best to work with them and mold them as we see fit. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, all right. So, a couple of slides to get you set in the mind frame of, and no applications, if you will. Let's just learn about who Gen Alpha is. So if you're not familiar, Gen Alpha is at the earliest study of them. They are identified at 2010 onward to about 2025. Some studies say 2013, some studies say 2015, some studies say, nah, 2024 is their end cap, but I would tell you lock into 2010 onward is generally where we see Gen Alpha start up. They are the first generation that is 100% encapsulated in technology. We might argue that they are AI natives in a lot of senses, of they are naturally inclined to using technology. Some pros and some cons there. We might already be thinking. And we want to also acknowledge that they've been raised in a time of real economic uncertainty, a complete bouncing up and down of real world impacts, and seeing their loved ones, seeing their friends, seeing their communities impacted by that. And to that point, they are swimming in information. The question might come to how do they interpret that information? So, adding some data points here. Do you realize that Gen Alpha, 79% of them get financial advice from social media? Do you know that about almost 8 hours of their time for children under 18 spend about 8 hours of screen time? Includes false information. Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, you're getting to like parts mist. Guys, teachers, you're getting ahead of me. Oh my goodness. 60% of these humans are already investors and using um, abundant resources to learn about money. They're curious about it, right? And then, of course, my last statistic here, 68% of young people feel consumed by financial worries. So, kind of painting the field there for us. I would like to propose for us a reframe of these elements. Sorry, I'm also reading the chat to like make sure like I'm staying on with you guys. So I want to propose a reframe, acknowledging that hey, swimming in information, some of it's false, some of it's right, some of it's wrong. I would like to look at these as weaknesses that we can raw material adjust and help them to adjust in these deficits, if you will. So the digital default, they are fluent with tools. And instead of but, I'm going to say and need the fundamentals underneath them. So no buts, but underneath. Or sorry, no buts, but ands. So fluent with tools and they need the fundamentals underneath them. That's where we come in, right? Info saturated. Oh my gosh, are they self-directed off on a tangent? And they need some skepticism and a dash of media literacy to combat all of that information coming at them. They are money anxious. They are highly motivated and their needs they need more confidence, not fear. They need to see how that confidence can be forged within themselves, right? Absolutely. They are anxious little humans, right? Well, they're all taller than me. I'm 4'11", guys. But that's the idea. So this is the reframe I'd like to propose for us, that we're going to take these elements of who Gen Alpha is and help them to readjust to the world around us. So in front of you, if you need to, I would heavily recommend a screenshot. I have 5 traits listed to you off on the right-hand side. I'd like to challenge you, educators, to discuss the trait that shows up most in your classroom. The one you're like, oh, yep, I saw that with little Billy today. I'd like you to also name a strength of that trait that comes up and how where you might be able to identify a support that you can offer as the educator. And of course, any and all. This time in the breakout room is really for your chance to hear from other educators, which I think is the most important thing for a conference to be able to talk and hear from one another. So I'm actually going to make sure that you have 5 minutes in your groups. I'm going to say, like, let's have at least 7 people there. Some peeps may be on the beach, as I heard from Rob's session. Some peeps might not be in the mode of being able to communicate, but I'd ask you to keep open ears, keep open eyes to the chat, and for about 5 minutes there, like taking these 5 traits and identifying. So maybe have someone read out loud, but go through of is Gen Alpha in your classroom and what does that look like? I can speak to, I'll give you a little sampling myself. In my own classroom, trying to talk my kids up of doing a stock simulation activity with them for a couple of weeks and getting them started. And I had a young man who pointed out to me, Ms. Bonfig, I already like invest. I'm already doing things. And not to get into the weeds of it, but like I flat out told this young man, I don't invest in that nature. Like you're on it right here and now. Like I can see you pull up your stocks right here and now. I invest in a completely different way. And at the time, I felt like, whoa, Jen Alpha, what are you doing? What do you mean you're just like thrown down willy-nilly? But it was an opportunity for us to talk. And it was an opportunity that my own class was able to be like, oh, yeah, no, I do invest, but not in that way. Or, like I was proud, like I did have one beautiful human who was like, didn't Ms. Montag say we should be doing this for the long haul? It's an opportunity. And I'm hoping that my fellow educators in this Zoom room will be in their breakout rooms to identify and see how we can support one another. Identify those areas that need a little bit of support and how can we support them. All right. Any questions? We feel pretty solid, pretty good. Taking screenshots. We might be able to share the screen to you in your room, but I want to make sure you're good and covered. Beautiful. You may have a little bit, like, remember, you only have 5 minutes in that breakout room. If you'd like a little commiserating, that's a-okay. Because I'll be honest, the slang gets me. But I'd love for you guys to have a moment with your fellow educators. So, with your permission, 5 minutes is yours in those breakout rooms. Please feel free to drop over into those breakout rooms. Thank you, Matthew. Perfect, perfect, guys. And again, you're being dropped into a breakout room to identify of these 5 traits, like what shows up the most, first thing to talk about. Second thing, hey, what's the strength that kind of comes along with it? And where can you support it? I love it, like positivity. And then land on a tangible classroom strategy. I have a couple I'll throw down with you, but go ahead, guys, into your breakout rooms. All right, all right. Oh, and if you're hanging out in here, I would say maybe utilize the chat if you'd like to like go through that. Otherwise, I'd hope that you can drop into the breakout rooms that we have open for you. All right, I do believe our breakout rooms are closing. We got 10-ish seconds as people come on back to the main room with me. Fantastic. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the main room. Hello, hello. I know, it might not have been enough time. Might not have been enough time, but I want to try and garner some final pieces to this reframing as we are talking. Again, you were sent off to breakout rooms to identify of these 5 Gen Alpha traits and trends, what you see the most in your rooms, a strength that you see within a trait, and how you can support that strength, and then maybe a classroom strategy and because this is such a good bubble of like good ideas that I can only imagine, I wanted to ask everyone. I know, it wasn't like 30 minutes is not enough to be able to like rock and roll with you all, but I'd like to ask each of you in the chat, would you identify which trait, you can still see them on the screen, which trait did you pick or like seem to gravitate with your group? What is its strength? And what support do your students need in regard to that? Go ahead and go ahead. Use just about 30 seconds typing into the chat how you would address these 3 prompts right here. For the first one, like that 79%, I had so many kids showing me different um, TikTok influencers, especially this one guy in a pool who apparently is a multimillionaire, but we used a lesson to kind of dissect like, do we believe him? Do we not? Investing earlier. Weaknesses. Some do not understand the risks, but the strength, opportunities to discuss and teach. Love it, Charles. Heck yeah. Um, good. Real life examples to help them with their worries. Oh, I love it. I love it. The digital native aspect, helping them to understand like real education on how not everything you read online is true. Oh, I love that. I love that. Some of you gravitated to that 7.5, not 75 hours, 7.5 hours a day on screens for those humans under 18 years old. Like wild, right? I see a lot of gravitation to like that realization that like these kiddos are worried and anxious about financial elements. So how do we address that? How do we go with it? Yes. The realization, oh, multitasking, absolutely, absolutely. Very nice, guys. Very nice. All right. Nice. Can I challenge us all? Some of us were able to, it was a lot to write in one prompt. I see the error of my ways. Um, I'd love to kind of roundhouse focus on like, I see a lot of identifying the trait. I see like what is its potential strength and what support is needed. I want to make sure that there's a time and place for that too, of if there's items that you'd like to address. In the chat myself, um, that's true. Like using the kiddos themselves to like help see other ways. I think that's part of like the good discussion to come with it. I love that. I'm going to drop into the chat a big long thing. I'm so sorry. But some things to consider utilizing when working with Gen Alpha learners, right? These humans that are digitally encapsulated, like from birth. These humans who, they see the world around them and they're processing a lot of information, and that can lead to a lot of the worries that they have, right? Well, of that list that I have in there, interactive learning platforms to engage them are helpful. Creativity and multimedia tools, having them be the ones to experience and trial run. Like shout out to my last session of calculators and simulations. Just having them experience in a risk-free way can be like mind melting for them. Of like, oh, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. Or most recently in a budgeting simulation I did with a kiddo of what do you mean I can't feed my whole household of six people on just top ramen? Like, what? Um, an avenue for some really good, real conversations with kiddos. And especially highlighting that we want to be working on like their reading and literacy tools, and those critical thinking skills, right? So, as we're coming to a close, we have 8 minutes left with each other. I want to give you my key takeaway slide and kind of redirect and address any questions that might kind of filter out, and also give you guys another space to kind of address elements that you've seen in the chat and with me. But key takeaway one, Gen Alpha is not problem to be fixed, but really an opportunity to help understand and help mold them to see the world around them. Like they are processing so much, and they might not have had those foundational skills that we've seen across the elder generations. I call myself that as a millennial as well, of processing is a little bit different. So our teaching strategies might include more. Hands-on learning elements to redirect their focus. They might include that technology, but having them experience that technology in a different way, right? The reframe, we find the strength and then we meet the gap where they're at. Because they are our next generation of humans in our community at large. So helping them to understand how to navigate it, that's just what we've been doing as educators, right? A daunting task on some days, but also a rewarding one. And then some resources. I wanted to do a quick connection to Intuit for Education's excellent things. Like I love the FinSight cards, guys. I hope that like you've signed up to get a deck yourself, or you might access through the professional development link and actually click on a couple of the like being able. I put them on Google Slides myself. FinSight's such a good opportunity to have them talk about it to address those worries. Also have them break a little bit of that screen time, if you will. But Finsights are my biggest one. The investing lesson's a great one to kind of combat, or not combat, but work with. work with their excitement for investing, and their perceived prowess of investing knowledge. Such great things there. Again, my list is in the chat too of some things that like maybe would help you of, hey, I use these elsewhere and this is how I can reapply it. But yeah, with our last 6 minutes, I just want to give you a chance to like typey type in the chat, unmute and ask questions if you'd like to. Gen Alpha, we got this. They got this. We got this.
I just want to say thank you, Danielle, because I've learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much.
Like I'm a real person. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Hi, Danielle. I just would like more explanation on the 68% feel consumed by financial worries. And my thing is everything is they're pretty entitled and pretty much have been given a lot. So where are they seeing the financial worries? I just was wanting you to expand on that, please. Thank you.
Oh,
And thank you for
absolutely.
today's session.
Of course, of course. So, for my own kiddos, those financial worries come in different ways. The high school I work at has a beautiful array of kids who apparently are going to Bora Bora over the summer, and kids who are working on getting a goat for the family, to be able to do things. I'm not fully aware of what the goat's for, but I love it. So I can absolutely hear the like, how do we handle the perceived entitlement? Because some kiddos absolutely are, and I would actually argue that entitlement, in my experience, comes more from their lack of experience of like, this is the world as I know it. The information I get from my different media sources tells me this. Like TikTok says that I'll be a millionaire if I just do these three things. And so the worries that are really at the heart of it, I think, come from the indecision of being able to apply the skills. When I do budgeting with humans, I get a lot of like lashback of like, well, why would I have to make like these kind of decisions? And I find it's an opportunity for the kids to disengage from the screen and engage with their fellow classmates who have completely different experiences, whether their feeds match up or not. But a lot of the woes that I experience in my own classroom come from, I hear my parents struggle. I hear my aunties struggle. And that makes me anxious. I need to like do different. I need to be successful in this. Nothing else is acceptable. Does that kind of address that's from my own classroom experience though with my kiddos. A lot of variation across that though. And anyone else, please like speak to the worries that you see with your own kiddos. I think it's one of those elements too of like individual conversations and hearing them talk with one another, like the lines between, if you will. Heck yeah. I hope that kind of addressed the question. Maybe. Ooh, and David just dropped in a link for the FinSite request form, so that you guys can get a physical deck. I love my deck. Like I have like little corners bent on the edges of like which ones I know I'm going to use, and it's just a good time. Good, good. To the shout out of shocked it's not a little bit higher. If that's to like the screen time, I would be curious of if numbers have gone higher most recently, because I think of it too of like the screen time I use in my own classroom and the screen time they use in other classrooms and the screen time they use at home for their own enjoyment. So I think when we can take little breaks and actually have real conversations with them, so, so good.
I do that too because I realize that they use their Chromebooks so much in other classrooms.
Oh my gosh,
So I
right?
try to use worksheets sometimes. I'm old school sometimes and go back to that.
I'm a
So
packet
and they
gal. I
and
feel
they
it. I
actually
feel it,
love it.
Charles.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, they sometimes love it. When I give them a big packet, they're not as pleased as I'd like
Oh
them to
yeah.
be.
Well, when it's like a
But
game or activity or something, they love it. But when it's a big packet, they're like, "Ugh."
oh, right. But I
Right.
think it's really important of they just have those, I don't want to say missed opportunities, but just not as many opportunities as previous generations, right? Like I will proudly say, like millennials, like we problem solve, don't we? But every generation problem solves. It just looks a little different as we proceed, right? I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
really cool conversation, and I'm so glad that you guys joined me for this conversation. I hope you found it worthwhile. And yeah,
Mhm.
we have 2 minutes left. If you're staying in the Gen Education track, I love that for you. If you're jumping to another track, a-okay. I'm going to try and read through the chat real fast and see if there's anything else that they cannot have. Yes. To be attainable. Yes, attainable, tangible. Absolutely, absolutely. Working with and like, oh, affluent families. Yes. I can understand seeing more entitlement than worries. And I think that's an opportunity for my kids who are like, hey, I'm going to Bora Bora this summer. And I'm like, I too would like to go. Um, I think it's a great moment to talk with kids to understand that not all things are constant forever, which said a little bit more gruffly, like I make them play the spent game. I make them play like chance elements of like with dice of like, oh hey, like you rolled this, like this is your outcome. You had no control over that. What could that be? So pretty good there. Yeah. I do too. Like there are some things that are tried and true statements from my beautiful boomer ancestry to like today. Heck yeah. You need ideas for games. Ooh, Rob like went through a bunch of really cool things and post conference recordings will and resources will be released through the resource page, I do believe. Heck yeah.